So coming to this data validation, what is our first step in doing the SAS programming? It's all data creation, right? So how do we create the data? We have different methods for creating the SAS data. We have proc, import and export procedures, and then we have input, in-file and input statements, and also we have proc SQL procedure, right? So these are the different means for us to import the data from different sources into SAS. At the same time, we make use of the same procedures to export the data from SAS to different sources, right? Now, that is how we create the data. Here for doing the data validation, I will take the sample data. Okay, this data, I'll make use of this data set for explaining the data validation concept. So how to bring that particular data into SAS? Since the data is present in text document, I'll bring the data into SAS by making use of input and in-file statement. Data, test. In-file, input and run. Okay, now sorry, in-file. In-file, here we have to give the path of the file where it is present. Take the path. Okay. Input, and here we have to give the variable names. Execute. Work library. So this is how we create the data. And then after creating the data, the next comes data validation. See, data validation is nothing but checking for the data consistency. Okay. Now, so validating is nothing but it is the process of identifying the invalid data values. A simple example is suppose take in your data you have a gender variable. Generally, what are the possible values that we can have in the gender? Either male or female, right? So if you have any third value, then definitely that is an invalid value. So identifying the invalid values is nothing but data validation. And suppose if you take any date values, so you have DD, MMYY, like first date, then month, and then year. If you have the month value as 14, is that a valid value per month? No, right?
No.
Suppose say you have 23, 14, 2012. Is this a valid month value? No. So like this, we identify what are the invalid values. Okay. So how can you can extract only the month, right, by using certain numeric functions. So if you write month of that particular date variable name, you'll get only month. Then what is the range of the month? Like 1 to 12. So if all that variable values lie in between 1 to 12, then it is like valid data. If any value is greater than 12, then it is not the valid data. So that is how we try to check the data how valid it is, or or the data has any invalid values. So these all are like simple examples. Similarly, for suppose if you take any data, you will have an inbound and outbound values, like as in boundary values, like so if your data is in between that boundary values, then your data is valid. If the data is like if any value is out of that value, out of that range, specified range, then we call that as like invalid data. Okay. So we have so many procedures to check the data validation. So like proc frequency. So if you take proc frequency, using proc frequency, you can check the data, invalid data, right? Suppose if you check the count of gender. So generally, for what two possible values we should get the count, either for male or female, right? But if you get that count for some other value as well, along with male and female, then that value is invalid value. So like this, you can check for invalid values by using proc frequency procedure, also by using proc means. Okay, so by using proc means, we can calculate different statistics, right? Like minimum value, maximum value, the range we can find out. Um, we can find out this sum, average, standard deviation. Like we can calculate so many statistics. So depending on the data that we have to conduct the data cleaning. So according to that, we keep calculating the statistics, right? For all the data, we will not follow the same standard data validation procedures. depending on the data that we have, and so depending on how we have to clean the data, or what variables that we have to validate, according to that we will make use of certain SAS procedures. But whatever programming that we have learned till now, maximum we make use of those procedures only. Okay. So this SAS programming, it is nothing but like kind of spontaneity for data validation. Okay. So what are the different functions that we can input, or what are the different procedures that we can input to do the data validation? That's it. But whatever procedures that we have learned till now, or functions, or whatever syntaxes that we have learned till now, mostly we'll make use of the same programming. Okay. Now, also you can make use of the proc univariate procedure, which I asked you to do the self-study. I'll provide you all the material, supporting material, everything once you go through. And if you have any questions, we'll discuss that proc univariate procedure. Okay. So by using proc means, or proc frequency, or proc univariate, proc summary, proc tabulate, by using any procedure, proc print even, okay, you can do the data validation. Then, so after you identify the invalid data, so then comes data cleaning, right? So data cleaning is nothing but checking like what could be the possible value that we can have for that invalid data, and then assigning that value, which is nothing but you can, uh, so we have so many procedures, no? Like to replace the data with any new value, like you can make use of the update procedure, or if statement you can make use of. Okay. So there we have, similarly, if it is a character data, you can make use of tran word, right? To replace one particular, in a data value, if you want to replace one part of the value, you can replace but that by using tran word. So we'll have different functions, right? To replace the invalid data. So accordingly, you can make use of that data, that functions to replace the invalid data with a valid data. Um, okay. Now, also by using proc sort procedures, also you can check for that invalid data. Okay. Then, hmm, now let us say here, here we are making use of this test data set, right? Hmm. Suppose say that if you want to report for the duplicate observations, like duplicate complete observation, or for specific complete observation, or for specific variables, okay. If you want to report for the duplicate, say like here we'll take duplicate observations, either by using proc sort procedure and no dup rec, that option, what you can do, you can remove the duplicate records, right? Like complete duplicate observation you can remove, but not identifying, correct? Similarly, by using proc sequel distinct option, what you can do, you can remove the duplicate. So by any key variables that you specify, you can remove the duplicates, or by the complete observation, like a complete record, duplicate record, you can remove, but not identifying. If you want to identify whether there are any duplicate records or not, you can execute this program. Okay. Um, So if you remember from dataset options, I told you that first dot and last dot, those are the options that you can make use in order to recognize the duplicate observations, right? Like or duplicate by any key variable. If you want to identify for the duplicate values, you can make use of that first dot and last dot. So here we'll use that technique. Since here I want to identify the duplicates, right? That's it. There is no need of creating a data set. So without creating a data set, if you want to execute the data step, make use of underscore null underscore. Okay. Data underscore null underscore. So without creating a data set, it will execute the data step. Now I'll take the data from test data set because we want to identify any duplicates from the test data set. Set test now. So here our ID is the key variable, right? So by ID variable, I want to recognize, are there any duplicate values existing? So I write by ID. Now you write here if first dot ID, okay, equal to 0, then so by that ID variable, if you remember the concept of this first dot and last dot, by whatever key variable that you give for first observation, it will assign the value 1, and for other observations it will assign 0, right? So whenever it is 0, then it is nothing but the duplicate record by that ID variable. Okay. So if first dot ID equal to 0, then do what it has to do is it has to create an output file. If you want to create an output file, then you can make use of the option statement called file. Okay, file. Where you want to create that file, give that path. I want to create the file in the same path. Give that path first, then give the file name. I'll give the file name as some abc.txt. Okay. Now, so if you want to write any information either in any external file or in the log window, you can make use of the statement called put. Put. If you want to define like from which position it has to start, you can define the position by writing at the rate. Okay. So first I want to display like in which data set I want to display the information in which data set it has the duplicates. Okay. So I'll write a test. Test is the data set name, no? So I'll write test. And at the rate. Here also, if you want to define the position, see, if you are not defining the positions, you'll get it continuously. But if you have like some space or any the delimiter, you can easily recognize, no? Like where, so like if you have any punctuation between like two words, you can easily recognize what are those. So for that reason, I'm like specifying the positions. So starting at the rate 20, I want to display ID. ID as in that particular text. Here you are writing in quotations, right? So it will display test and it will display ID. That those two will be constants. So those are like character values. That's it. Okay. And I want to display the observation number. In which observation it has to duplicate. Okay. So observation number you can display by using underscore n underscore. Okay. Remember from data step processing, underscore n underscore is nothing but how many times that it executes the input statement, number of iterations, right? Which is nothing but number of observations. So n is nothing but count of the observation. So that count I want to display here so that you can easily identify, right? Okay, so in this data set, if the n value is 60, then 60th observation is the duplicate observation by that ID variable. That is how you can recognize. Okay. N. When we are writing if statement, obviously we'll have else also, no? Else, do. If there are no duplicates, if you want to write that non-duplicate records, here if it is 0, 0 as in duplicates. If you want to write that non-duplicates into another file, you can give the file name. Else, do abc1.txt I'll give. Okay. Whatever information that you want to display, you can display. Else put um, starting with whatever information that you want to display, you can display. Say like, suppose if you want to display it as a valid record, okay? Say like underscore n underscore. That observation is a valid record. Okay. So it will display that particular info and then end with run statement. Then do. So you have to end with end statement. Okay. Now, whenever you use by statement, make sure you are sorting the data by that variable. Proc sort data equal to test by ID and run. Next. Execute. Check here. See. Here we don't have any information in ABC, right? Which means there are no duplicates. Check here. See, whatever information that you display here, n is nothing but observation number, and you want to display like if it is a valid record. See, okay. So which means by ID value there are no duplicates existing in the test data set. This is how you can check for the duplicates by any variable. Now the next one is, if you want to find the missing data, you can find the missing data also. Data null, set test. I'll take the same program and will modify accordingly. Test. What are the different ways? Suppose it is not necessary that you have to check in all the variables. If you want to check in all the variables, take all the variables list. If you want to check only in few variables, specific variables, then take only that list. Okay. Here I'll check in all the variables. So write here if id equal to, id is a character data. How do you represent the missing data? Like this, right? If id equal to missing, or gender equal to missing, or code equal to missing, or age group equal to missing, or amount equal to missing. Okay. Or balance equal to missing. Okay. Or balance equal to missing, then do, I want to display that information in the same file we'll give. Okay. In the same file, starting at the rate 1, I want to display the dataset name, and then starting at the rate 20, let us display, and starting at the rate, say like 8. Okay, I want to display the observation number, and then complete observation it has to display. Okay, so then give all that variable names.
So Pavani, is it gonna append or like overwrite?
It will overwrite.
Okay.
Or else you can give another file name. Do you want me to give another file name?
Yeah, I'll give this. Just I want to see if it is appending or overwriting.
Okay. Starting at the rate 8, display the observation. Here also, if you want to define the positions, like starting at what position, you can define. Okay, starting at 15. Else do, if you don't want to print anything, like not creating a file, then you can make use of the option called print. Okay, when you are doing this, no need of. Okay, now run the program. Check ABC. See. So in test data set, in second observation, we have for some variable, okay, because we have listed all the variables, right? So see, for some variable, we have the missing data. So in all these observations, whatever observations that are listed here, in all these observations, in any of the variable, okay, in any of the variable, we have the missing data. In any of the variable, as in here, we have listed all these variables, no? In any of these variables, we have the missing data, right? So like this, you can identify for the missing data. If you want only to look at ID, then write only ID. If you want to look at only at gender, then write only gender. Okay. Or if you want to look at only some specific combination of variables, give that variables. Ashok, clear?
Yes, Pavani, clear.
Right now?
Got it.
Cool. So this is how we can identify the duplicates, and this is how we can identify the missing values in the data. Okay. And say like if you want to represent your missing data with 0 or with the mean of the existing values, you know how to do it, right? By using the if statement, or by following the array programming, or by using the SQL. Okay, you can do that. SQL qualsec function. Okay.